Hey, it's Mazzy here. I want to showcase and talk to you about a great music documentary that's out in the theaters right now, if you go to the theaters, or it's on Hulu, and that's Summer of Soul. The Revolution May Not Be Televised. It's from a series of the Harlem Music Festival, the Harlem Cultural Festival, that took place in 1969 over 6 weeks in Harlem, obviously New York City. And I saw the film this past weekend on Hulu, not in a theater, and it's a wonderful film. And any music fan who likes soul, R&B, gospel definitely needs to see it. It's also a very political film, and I'm not one to shy away from music and politics because I think it is always intertwined. And I get every once in a while a comment that says, "Stick to music, dump the politics," or "Stick to the music, dump the vaccines," or "Stick to the music and shut up about everything else." Well, this is a film that here's a little background on the film. This stuff was shot in 1969, and it was going to be used, I think, in a TV series. And what's great about it, it was shot on video. It was shot on large format, literally TV studio cameras. So all the audio is wonderful and from the videotape. So the sound is really good. It's not widescreen, it's normal, I forgot the aspect ratio, but it's great footage. And it was this footage that was literally put in a basement for 50 plus years. And a couple of clips have come out. I think there was a piece of Nina Simone that was used in a documentary about her, and maybe a couple other bits and pieces. But literally, 1969 crosses over the time when Woodstock was happening just upstate New York. And even just, I think, the following year, the producers of this tried to promote it and put it out and say, look, we want to make this into a film of like the Black Woodstock. But it was a free cultural festival in New York, in a park up in Harlem, and an amazing array of musicians, and I highly recommend you check this out. There is some interviewing. It was directed by Questlove. Questlove, you may know as the drummer of the musical band The Roots. He's also a DJ. The Roots is the house band on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon these days, but he's done a lot of great music, great DJing, and the like. So this is, I believe, the first movie he's directed. He's compiled it and with some new interviews, but the music is the core, but Black politics, Black cultural identity, Black America, Black musical heritage is a extremely important part of this. And what I'm just going to do is, I think I have at least one album by every artist here. I'm going to showcase the artists, go through them, and you can kind of see who was involved. I don't actually have every artist album of the time, 1969, but this will give you kind of an overview of what this great music is. And if you want to put a playlist, this would be a great thing. Now, the Temptations were not there. So why am I showing this record? Because David Ruffin was there. David Ruffin was one of the main lead singers of the Temptations, the core of that band that went solo just prior to this festival. And he sings an amazing rendition of My Girl, the famous Temptation song. He's got this like thick, heavy, almost like crushed velvet suit on. It must have been sweltering hot, but he's so fantastic and he's so great. I kind of miss the dance moves of the Temptations, but My Girl is such a wonderful song by the Temptations. Another of the Motown artists who were there with Gladys Knight and the Pips. Heard it through the grapevine. Amazing song, amazing artist, and wonderful to see them perform on this show. Now, a big surprise for many, and one of my favorite moments, was they talk about a lot of this music coming from the church, from gospel music. I happen to be a fan of, and they talk about the great Mahalia Jackson. Mahalia Jackson, if you don't know her, she's our artist from the church that you really need to know about. Obviously, she did some crossover secular singing as well, and just amazing vocalist. And she was about to perform and she was kind of losing it in terms of before she got started there. And so she brings up on stage Mavis Staples. Now the singer, the Staples singers, family pop staples, Mavis Staples and her sisters performed, and it was really great to see them. This is, I think, their 1969 album, We'll Get Over. Had a great run on Stax, and into the 70s, they had like literally some top 40 hits. I'm a huge fan of the Staple singers, great fan of them. But there's this great duet of a song that was Martin Luther King's pretty much his favorite song. Remember, this took place a year after the assassination of Martin Luther King. But wonderful duet between Mavis Staples and Mahalia Jackson. Just the passion, the energy, just sublime, wonderful. Now, another artist, and it was interesting to see, I think it was a conversation here from a couple of band members about what they were going through at the time. Now, the Fifth Dimension, Up and Away, Up with People type of thing, Age of Aquarius, all that. A lot of people at the time, before they started seeing their face, didn't realize they were a black band because they sounded like white artists. They were doing white artist material. They were doing music from Hair, of all things. And they didn't get a lot of love initially in the black community. And you could hear the discussions, listen to the discussions of Marilyn McCoo talking about this time, this record, this music. And they seem to woo the audience over by doing the Age of Aquarius. But it is a little humorous and a little bit off to see them doing this kind of hippie dance, kumbaya, we are the dawning of the Age of Aquarius, let the sun shine in. But it worked. It really works, and it sounds fabulous in here. But again, they admit that, they had to fight this sort of backlash, from the black community, that they weren't very black. They're almost like Oreo cookie types. And this is a great album that came out around that time, of course, 1969, I believe, and has Tommy Tedesco, Larry Knechtel, Jimmy Webb, Joe Osborne, Hal Blaine, of course, the Wrecking Crew backing them up. But a fabulous record here. And it's produced by Johnny Rivers and Mark Gordon. I'm a huge Johnny Rivers fan as well, so great guitarist. So there she is, and it's great seeing her perform on this movie. But it is interesting, and they hit it right on the head about the blackness and how black do you have to be or should you be. So I got a lot more respect from them after watching this film, even though I've had this record for ages. Huge hit. Also, it was great to see B.B. King, who was going through a renaissance of his own because of these British rock and roll musicians, like obviously the Yardbirds and Eric Clapton and Jimmy Page, and all these black young guitar players who sort of took the blues, American blues, and brought these artists on. And obviously he would do a record the same year as this. This is from 1971. And this is B.B. King live at Cook County Jail. Fabulous live record. I don't have anything right from 1969 of his. He did that B.B. King in London with a lot of those mentioned young blues guitarists and musicians as well. But B.B. King is great on this too. So, and it's great to see Lucille, the guitar, on that. Now, again, talking politics, calling up things, a great duet during the show. Now, I'm showing two early albums from 1959 and 1960, and that's Abbey Lincoln's Abbey is Blue, soul, jazz, singer, and this wonderful album, Max Roach, We Insist. And We Insist, his most overtly political record about the movement, about the racial issues, about racial freedoms. And there's a suite on here, the We Insist Freedom Now suite, that has Abbey Lincoln on here. So she's on this record as well. This is a very important record. It's out there, it's jazzy, but his drum playing in this film, Summer of Soul, is magnificent. And of course, the great jazz drummer who gone to lead a lot of bands. Obviously Max Roach and Art Blakey are amongst the more known and finest of the jazz drummers around this period. But cool, great stuff. Coleman Hawkins is on here as well, and Oscar Brown Jr. plays piano on this. So these two, their performance is really, really powerful as well in this film. Now, Mongo Santa Maria does a very wonderful version of Watermelon Man. Watermelon Man obviously was a Herbie Hancock song, and Mongo Santa Maria was really into the Afro-Cuban thing. So there's a segment in the film they talk about Cuban music, Latin music in the mix in Harlem of Cuban and black artists working together. Now, I almost hesitated to show this because it's typical, of the times, 1969, where they stick a white woman on the cover of a black artist record for sales, obviously. So even though that's the record, it's La Bamba, it has Watermelon Man, Summertime, great record, that great Afro-Cuban sound. But I got to show this. You got to see the man himself. And this is Mongo Santa Maria El Pussycat. So this is the music, this is the artist. And it's just really great seeing the percussive majesty of his performance as well. Now, I don't know if there's going to be, I assume there's going to be a digital version of this, like a Blu-ray coming out eventually, and I would love if they did full performances, full sets, or as much as they can of these, because they pretty much do one or two songs per artist, and some of the artists come back later in terms of the way the film was edited, but it really, really works wonderfully. Another on the percussive scene is the great Hugh Masekela. This is an album. This is the only actually Hugh Masekela record I have. Much later, of course, he got prominence to the rock community because he played at the Monterey Festival at Monterey Pop Festival in 1967. So 2 years before this Harlem performance, he played on that, and of course, the infamous song "Monterey" by Eric Burdon and the Animals mentions Hugh Masekela with its fantastic trumpet playing and African beats. Fantastic. This is an analog production live record, Hope. Amazing sound. A little slick for me. I do like it. Sometimes, again, there's that whole thing I've said before about the sound over substance. I mean, it's an amazing, wonderful performance. No doubt about that. I would like to get some of his earlier work because I think this is like one of those great sounding, slick, well-produced records, mastered by Kevin Gray at Coherent. So fantastic record. I mean, I'm not going to take away from this, but Masekela is fantastic in the film. Stevie Wonder. Now, this is this period of Stevie Wonder where he's kind of like, on the seesaw between Little Stevie Wonder with Uptight, Everything All Right, his cover of We Can Work It Out in 65, 66. And before 1972, when he put out this record. This is the beginning of the Stevie Wonder that a lot of us covet and a lot of us just love. Obviously, Music of My Mind was the first in that series from 1972. Not in order, but he did obviously Talking Buck, Inner Visions, the double album, Songs in the Key of Life, and there's one I'm missing obviously there. But to see him perform and see him on the keyboards and just the way he's playing that small electric keyboard, and then he's led back to the drum set and does an incredible drum solo. Hearing and seeing Stevie Wonder do this really great drum solo is so amazing. Of course, this has the album Superwoman, which was a hit, but really after this he exploded. He got his second wind and became this like artist that is one of the biggest R&B or any artist from the 1970s. Stevie Wonder's great in this, but again, just that teetering between the two styles of the great Stevie Wonder. Another amazing artist, and this is like, he exploded. Remember, this is 1969. I don't know exactly the dates, which came first. My guess is this is probably a little before Woodstock, but it's Sly and the Family Stone. Great performance. They talk in the movie how all of a sudden, the band's getting on stage and they see this white drummer, they see this white bass player, they see these two women horn players. What is it? I believe, was it saxophone? Am I right? Well, at least a trumpet player is also a vocalist and trumpet player. And then, of course, Sly Stone. I mean, the great DJ producer from San Francisco Bay Area. This is Stand. This is the album that came out in 1969. If you've seen the performance, I'm sure most of you had in Woodstock. This is good. Obviously, it's a daylight performance, but it's still friggin' great. And they talk about that mix. And again, he wowed the audience over too, because Sly Stone had a huge white following, even though they're a funky soul band from the Bay Area. And this is great, Sly and the Family Stone album, Stand. I do have one CD to show. This is the Gospel Box. I've showed this many times. This is a Rhino collection, but I'm showing this because of one song that I don't have their album. I keep meaning to get it when I see it used, but it's the Edwin Hawkins Singers, Bay Area band from Oakland, California, and church band. Not even a band, church choir. And they had this massive hit with Oh Happy Day. Oh Happy Day was all over the radio, all over the secular charts, the pop charts. It was huge. Obviously, it was on I think KDIA, Lucky 13 was the Oakland Soul station, but it crossed over and it was just played all the time. And they talk a little bit about how the church, and specifically their church, was not a fan of having them do this hit record and going on the road performing. But, they shared the music, they shared the moment. Edwin Hawkins, great performance of Oh Happy Day. It really, these gospel things, which I've talked about in a couple other videos where I cross over with rock and gospel and soul and gospel, it brings it to another audience. Now, I'm not a religious person by any stretch of the imagination, but I love this music so much. So the Edwin Hawkins Singers do a great version of Oh Happy Day. And I'm going to close out, to me, with an artist who, in my mind, brought down the house, but it was one of the most important artists, especially when you talk about 1969, Black America, jazz, soul, fusion, and that's Nina Simone. I believe she closes out the film. This is her first album. I mean, these albums really have no correlation to the film, but these are amongst my favorite two of her albums. This one's a must. Jazz, blues, piano vocalist with Mood Indigo, Don't Smoke in Bed, Little Girl Blue, Porgy, Central Park Blues. Gorgeous record. Nina Simone, Pastel Blues. This is a record that has Sinnerman on it and Strange Fruit. Obviously, two albums that are very appropriate for this film and this discussion. But what I don't have here, I do have a bunch of several box sets of her CDs, her composition made famous by her, as well as Aretha Franklin of Young, Gifted, and Black. Because she goes into this whole poetry thing too. She reads a very Black America political poem within the context of the performance in the film, which is just so dramatic. So Summer of Soul, check it out. If you get a chance, if it's in your neighborhood theater, go see it. If you have a Hulu, subscribe and then dump it if you want, but watch it. It's fantastic, and it's the right movie for the right time. And in fact, since it waited so long, it came out at a time where it sort of parallels what was going on in the late 60s and into the 70s. So Summer of Soul, Questlove's film, one of the great documentaries, I haven't seen a lot of documentaries this year, but I assume it's going to be one of the best documentaries of 2021. So go check it out. Check out this music. If you don't know it, dive into every artist here is amazing. Mazzy loves you. Take care.